continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Foundation. Robert Mitchell had built his life like a fortress, methodically, with precision, and without room for weakness. At 42, he owned 3 successful auto repair shops across Denver, a sprawling ranch house in the suburbs, and what he believed was a stable marriage to Linda, his wife of 18 years. Their children, Amy, 16, and Tyler, 14, completed what appeared to be the perfect American family portrait. Rob's success hadn't come easily. Born to Frank Mitchell, a Vietnam veteran who raised him alone after his mother's death when Rob was 12, he learned early that loyalty was earned and betrayal was unforgivable. Frank had drilled into him a simple philosophy. Trust is a privilege, son. Once someone breaks it, they've shown you who they really are. Never forget that lesson. The lesson had served Rob well in business. He was known for his handshake deals, his fair treatment of employees, and his absolute intolerance for dishonesty. When mechanics tried to overcharge customers or suppliers attempted to shortchange him, Rob's response was swift and final. There were no second chances in Robert Mitchell's world. Linda Mitchell, née Linda Hartwell, had been different when they met, or so Rob thought. She was 22, working as a receptionist at a dental office, charming and vivacious with auburn hair and green eyes that seemed to light up when she laughed. Rob, then 24 and to start his first shop, was immediately smitten. Their courtship was a whirlwind of romantic dinners and weekend trips to the mountains. What Rob didn't know was that Linda had already mastered the art of being exactly what people wanted her to be. Born to parents who divorced when she was 8, she learned to navigate between 2 households by telling each parent what they wanted to hear. By her teens, manipulation had become second nature. She saw Rob's potential before he did. The ambitious young man with calloused hands and clear goals who would provide the comfortable life she craved. The early years of their marriage were genuinely happy. Rob worked 18-hour days building his business, while Linda played the supportive wife, hosting dinner parties for potential clients and charming everyone she met. When Amy was born, followed by Tyler 2 years later, Linda seemed to embrace motherhood naturally. But as Rob's business grew and his attention became increasingly divided between work and family, Linda began to feel neglected. She never complained directly. Instead, she made subtle comments about other husbands who took their wives on romantic getaways or bought them expensive jewelry. She'd sigh wistfully at the neighbor's new car or mention how tired she was of their routine. Rob, focused on providing financial security, interpreted these hints as encouragement to work even harder. It was during Tyler's Little League season 3 years ago that Linda first met Derek Thompson. Derek was the assistant coach, recently divorced, and everything Rob wasn't: attentive, spontaneous, and available. He noticed when Linda got her hair done, complimented her on her choice of outfit, and made her feel like the most interesting woman in the room. Derek was 38, a real estate agent with a smooth tongue and flexible morals. His own marriage had ended when his wife discovered his affair with a client. Rather than learning from his mistakes, Derek had simply become more careful. He specialized in targeting married women who felt underappreciated, and Linda was a perfect mark: beautiful, lonely, and married to a man who was too busy building an empire to notice his queen's growing discontent. Their affair began with coffee after practice sessions, progressed to lunches while the kids were at school, and eventually escalated to afternoon encounters at Derek's downtown condo. Linda told herself she deserved happiness, that Rob had driven her to this by neglecting her emotional needs. Derek whispered that she was wasted on a man who couldn't appreciate her true worth. Meanwhile, Rob remained oblivious. He trusted Linda completely, never questioning her explanations for being out or her new interest in fitness classes that seemed to run longer each week. When she suggested they take out a $15,000 personal loan to renovate the kitchen, Rob signed the papers without hesitation. Linda had always handled the household finances, and he assumed she knew what she was doing. The loan money never touched the kitchen. Instead, it funded Linda and Derek's elaborate fantasy life. Expensive dinners, weekend trips to mountain resorts when Rob was working, and ultimately, the Hawaiian vacation that would bring everything crashing down. Chapter 2. The Discovery. The November air was crisp as Rob pulled into his driveway that Thanksgiving evening, exhaustion weighing heavy on his shoulders. He'd spent the entire day at his newest shop location, dealing with a burst pipe that had flooded the service bay. The emergency had consumed his holiday, but the damage was contained, and his team would be able to reopen on Friday. All he wanted was to join his family for leftover turkey and maybe watch some football with Tyler. The house looked oddly quiet as he approached, only the porch light glowing in the darkness. Usually by this time on Thanksgiving, the living room would be bright with activity. Amy practicing guitar, Tyler playing video games, Linda organizing the kitchen with military precision. Rob's keys jangled as he unlocked the front door. "Hello, I'm home." His voice echoed in the silence. He walked through the foyer, past the formal dining room where Linda's best china usually remained untouched after their holiday meal. Tonight, the table was bare. The sound of a fork scraping against a plate drew him toward the kitchen. There, under the harsh fluorescent lighting, sat his father, Frank, methodically eating what appeared to be a hastily assembled turkey sandwich. The 68-year-old man looked up with an expression Rob had rarely seen, a mixture of fury and profound sadness. "Dad, what are you doing here? Where is everyone?" Frank set down his fork and gestured toward a folded piece of paper beside his plate. "Read it." Rob's hands trembled slightly as he unfolded the note. Linda's careful handwriting, the same script that had penned love letters during their courtship, delivered the killing blow in neat blue ink. "Rob, by the time you read this, the kids and I will be in Hawaii with Derek. I've spent the $15,000 loan on this trip because we deserve a real vacation with someone who actually cares about family time. Derek understands what it means to put loved ones first. We'll be staying at the Maui Grand Resort for 10 days. Don't try to contact us. Amy and Tyler are excited to spend time with their real father figure. Take care of Frank. He seemed lost when we left. Maybe you two can figure out how to be a family without us. Linda." Rob read the note 3 times, each word hitting him like a physical blow. The $15,000 loan he'd co-signed, thinking it was for kitchen renovations. His children calling another man their real father figure. His wife of 18 years dismissing their marriage with the casual cruelty of someone discarding an old appliance. When did they leave? Rob's voice was steady, but Frank could see the dangerous calm settling over his son's features. This morning, around 10, Linda was rushing around, packing suitcases. Told the kids it was a surprise vacation. Amy seemed excited, but Tyler looked confused. He kept asking when you'd be joining them. "And you've been here since then?" Frank nodded. "She asked me to come over to keep an eye on things while you were at work. Didn't tell me they were leaving until I got here. Found a note on the counter and figure I should wait for you to get home." Rob walked to the refrigerator and opened it, staring at the leftover turkey and untouched sides that should have fed his family for days. Everything looked normal, domestic, exactly as it should be. But the illusion of his perfect life had been shattered completely. "Dad," Rob said finally, his voice carrying a cold certainty that made Frank's military instincts prick up. "We'll fix this." Frank studied his son's profile, recognizing something he'd seen in Vietnam. The moment when a good man decided that someone had crossed a line from which there was no return. "What are you thinking, son?" Rob folded the note carefully and slipped it into his shirt pocket. "I'm thinking that Linda and Derek have made a serious miscalculation. They think they can humiliate me, steal from me, and poison my children against me. They're about to learn exactly who they've been playing games with." The next 3 days passed in a blur of careful preparation. Rob called in sick to work for the first time in 5 years, claiming a family emergency. It wasn't entirely a lie. He spent hours on the phone with his lawyer, his accountant, and several private investigators he'd used for background checks on potential business partners. Frank watched his son work with quiet admiration. This wasn't the desperate flailing of a broken man. This was the methodical planning of someone who understood that revenge was a dish best served with surgical precision. By Sunday evening, Rob had a complete picture of Derek Thompson's life. The man was drowning in debt from his divorce, behind on his condo payments, and being investigated by the State Real Estate Commission for questionable practices. More importantly, Rob had discovered something Derek and Linda didn't know he knew. The Hawaii trip wasn't just a vacation. It was Derek's escape plan. "They're not coming back," Rob told his father as they sat in his home office, surrounded by documents and phone records. Derek's been moving money around, closing accounts. He's planning to convince Linda to start fresh somewhere else. Hawaii is just the first stop. Frank leaned back in his chair. "And the kids?" Rob's jaw tightened. "Amy's 16. She can make her own choices about where her loyalties lie. Tyler's 14 and confused. But if Linda thinks she can use my children as weapons against me, she's about to discover how wrong she is." The call came Monday evening, just as Rob had predicted. Linda's voice was nervous, artificial in its cheerfulness. "Rob, I know you must be upset, but I need you to understand. Where are my children, Linda?" "They're fine. They're happy. Derek's been wonderful with them. And I think this time away has shown them what a real family dynamic looks like." Rob smiled, a cold expression that would have terrified Linda if she could have seen it. "I'm sure it has. How's the weather in Maui?" There was a pause. "It's beautiful." "Rob, I want you to know this isn't about hurting you. It's about finally choosing happiness. I understand completely. When will you be bringing my children home?" That's what I called to discuss. Derek thinks it might be better if we extended our stay. The kids are doing so well here in... Linda. Rob's voice cut through her rambling like a knife. "Bring my children home." "Or what?" The challenge in her voice was clear. "You'll throw a tantrum? You'll make threats?" "Derek says you're probably too proud to even file for divorce. He thinks you'll just accept this and move on." Rob looked at his father, who was listening to every word on the speakerphone. Frank nodded once, a gesture of solidarity that spoke volumes. "Tell Derek I said hello," Rob replied calmly. "And Linda? Enjoy the rest of your vacation. Really enjoy it." Chapter 3. The Setup. Tuesday morning arrived gray and cold, matching Rob's mood as he sat in his kitchen drinking coffee and finalizing his plans. The house felt enormous without Amy's music drifting from upstairs or Tyler's constant questions about everything from homework to whether they could get a dog. But Rob couldn't afford to dwell on the emptiness. He had work to do. His first call was to Miranda Kowalski, a private investigator he'd used to vet potential business partners. Miranda was a former Denver police detective who'd gone private after getting fed up with department politics. She was thorough, discreet, and had no moral qualms about what Rob was planning. "I need everything," Rob told her as they sat in her downtown office. Derek Thompson's financials, his client list, his travel history, his social media, his phone records if you can get them. "I want to know every person he's ever screwed over and every corner he's cut." Miranda took notes on a legal pad, her expression neutral. "Time frame. I need it yesterday. Money's no object. And your wife?" Rob's expression hardened. "Linda Mitchell, née Hartwell. I want her digital footprint mapped. Every email, every text, every social media post for the past 3 years. I want to know when this affair started and how deep it goes. You're looking for leverage. I'm looking for justice." Miranda studied Rob's face for a moment. "I'll have preliminary information by tomorrow. Full workup by Friday." "Rob, whatever you're planning." "I'm not planning anything illegal, Miranda. I'm simply going to give my wife and her boyfriend exactly what they deserve." While Miranda began her digital investigation, Rob spent the day making his own inquiries. His first stop was Derek's real estate office, a sleek glass building in Cherry Creek, where Derek worked for Premier Mountain Properties. Rob introduced himself to the receptionist as a potential client looking for commercial property. "Derek Thompson was recommended to me," Rob lied smoothly. "I understand he specializes in investment opportunities." The receptionist's expression flickered with something Rob couldn't quite identify. "Mr. Thompson is currently out of the office. Perhaps I could connect you with another agent." "When will he be back?" "Well, he's on vacation this week. But to be honest, Mr. Mitchell." "Mr. Mitchell, I probably shouldn't say this, but Derek's been having some performance issues lately. If you're looking for serious commercial investment, I'd recommend speaking with Sarah Volkov. She's our top commercial agent." Rob smiled warmly. "Performance issues?" The receptionist glanced around nervously. There had been some complaints. Clients saying he promised things he couldn't deliver, missed deadlines. Between you and me, I think management has been looking for a reason to let him go. I appreciate the honesty. What kind of complaints? Mostly from sellers who say he overvalued their properties to get listings, then couldn't find buyers at the promised prices. A few buyers who claim he misrepresented property conditions. Nothing that's gone to court, but Rob filed this information away. Derek's professional reputation was already hanging by a thread. That could be useful. His next stop was more personal. Tyler's middle school was a 10-minute drive from Derek's office, and Rob knew the afternoon dismissal routine by heart. He'd picked up Tyler dozens of times for dentist appointments or early baseball practices. Today, he was fishing for information. Ms. Patricia Henderson, Tyler's 8th grade homeroom teacher, greeted Rob with concern when he appeared at her classroom door. "Mr. Mitchell, I was surprised when Tyler didn't come to school today. Is everything all right?" "Family vacation," Rob replied. "Last-minute trip to Hawaii. Tyler will be back next week." "How wonderful for him. He's been struggling a bit lately, actually. I was going to call you about his behavior in class." Rob felt a chill. "What kind of behavior?" "Well, he's been distracted, Moody. Last week he got into an argument with another student who made a comment about his mother. Something about seeing her with another man at the mall. Tyler got quite upset, said the boy was lying. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Tyler had known, or at least suspected, that something was wrong. The confusion Frank had mentioned when they left for Hawaii suddenly made perfect sense. Tyler hadn't been excited about a surprise vacation. He'd been worried about what it meant. Did Tyler say anything else about this incident? Ms. Henderson hesitated. "He asked me if adults sometimes lie to protect children's feelings. I told him that sometimes adults make difficult decisions that children don't understand right away. He seemed to be wrestling with something, but he wouldn't talk about it." Rob thanked Ms. Henderson and left the school with a heavy heart. His 14-year-old son had been carrying the burden of his mother's betrayal, trying to make sense of something that no child should have to understand. The thought of Tyler's confusion and pain added a new layer to Rob's resolve. Wednesday morning brought Miranda's preliminary report, delivered in a manila envelope that would change everything. Rob spread the documents across his kitchen table while Frank made coffee, both men studying the evidence of Linda and Derek's deception. The affair started 18 months ago. Miranda's voice came through the speaker as she walked them through her findings. "I've got hotel receipts, restaurant charges, even a jewelry purchase Derek made for Linda last Valentine's Day, while you were out of town for that shop owners conference." Rob remembered that weekend. He'd been in Phoenix, learning about new diagnostic equipment. Linda had claimed she was sick and couldn't join him, said she was going to spend Valentine's Day in bed with soup and Netflix. Instead, she'd been at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs with Derek, living off his credit cards and playing house. "Here's where it gets interesting," Miranda continued. "Derek's been planning this for months. He's been liquidating assets, moving money offshore. There's a property in Costa Rica that he put a deposit on 6 weeks ago." Frank whistled low. "Costa Rica? No extradition treaty for most financial crimes," Miranda explained. "Derek's not just running away with your wife, Rob. He's running from something. I'm still digging, but I think he's been embezzling from his real estate clients." Rob studied the financial documents. Derek had been living beyond his means for years, using client escrow accounts as his personal bank. The Hawaii trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a shopping trip for a new life in Central America, funded by other people's money. "What about Linda?" Rob asked. "She's been active on social media throughout the trip. Posted dozens of photos of her and the kids with Derek, all tagged with locations and timestamps. She's been portraying him as the perfect family man, the devoted boyfriend who finally appreciates her. The comments from her friends are interesting. Miranda's report included printouts of Linda's Facebook and Instagram posts. Photos of Derek teaching Tyler to surf, of Amy laughing at dinner, of Linda herself looking radiant in a Sunset Beach photo with the caption, "Finally found my happiness." Sometimes you have to be brave enough to choose yourself. The comments were indeed interesting. Several of Linda's friends had posted supportive messages, but others seemed confused or concerned. Linda's sister had written, "What about Rob? Are you sure this is the right choice?" Linda's response was telling. Rob's had 18 years to prioritize his family. Some people never learn. Rob closed the file and looked at his father. "She's made her choice public. Posted pictures of my children calling another man their father figure for all the world to see." Frank nodded grimly. "What's the next move?" Rob pulled out his phone and started dialing. "Time to make some calls." Derek Thompson thinks he's been clever, but he's about to learn that stealing from Robert Mitchell was the biggest mistake of his life. The first call was to his lawyer, the second to his accountant, and the third to a business contact in Hawaii who owed Rob a favor. By Thursday morning, the trap would be set, and Linda and Derek would have no idea what was coming. As Rob worked late into the night, preparing for the phase of his plan that would bring his wife and her lover back to Denver, he thought about Tyler's question to his teacher. Do adults sometimes lie to protect children's feelings? Soon, Tyler would learn that sometimes adults lie for much worse reasons. But he'd also learn that some adults, the ones who truly love you, will move heaven and earth to protect what matters most. The game was about to begin, and Rob Mitchell intended to win. Chapter 4. The Trap. Thursday morning found Rob in his home office before dawn, orchestrating the first phase of his counterattack. His contact in Hawaii, James Nakamura, owned a chain of equipment rental companies across the islands and had worked with Rob's shops for years, providing specialty tools when Rob's customers needed work done on exotic vehicles they'd shipped from mainland. "Rob, good to hear from you," James said over the phone. "Though it's pretty early here. What can I do for you?" "I need a favor, James." "A big one." Rob explained the situation in broad strokes. His wife's affair, the stolen loan money, the public humiliation. He didn't mention his larger plans, but James was a businessman himself and understood the importance of reputation and respect. "They're staying at the Maui Grand Resort?" James asked. "I know the manager there, Kevin Aloha. We went to high school together." "What do you need?" "Information. Room numbers, billing details when they're planning to check out. And I need Derek Thompson to receive a phone call that will bring him back to Denver immediately." "What kind of phone call?" Rob smiled. "The kind that makes a guilty man panic." While James worked his connections in Hawaii, Rob continued building his case. Miranda's deeper investigation had revealed the full scope of Derek's financial crimes. He'd been skimming from client escrow accounts for over 2 years, using the money to maintain his lifestyle and fund his affair with Linda. The total amount was approaching $200,000. He's been covering the shortfalls by using new escrow deposits to pay old obligations, Miranda explained during their Thursday afternoon meeting. Classic Ponzi scheme structure. Eventually, he'd run out of new money and the whole thing would collapse. When my forensic accountant estimates, he had maybe 6 more months before someone noticed. The Hawaii trip accelerated his timeline. He needed to disappear before his clients started asking hard questions about their missing money. Rob studied the financial records. "He's been stealing to impress my wife." "Looks that way." The timeline matches perfectly. Every major expenditure on Linda corresponds with client money going missing. The jewelry, the fancy dinners, even the Hawaii trip, it's all stolen money. Frank, who'd been quietly listening, spoke up. "So Derek's not just a homewrecker. He's a thief. A desperate thief," Rob corrected, "which makes him dangerous, but also makes him vulnerable." The phone call came at 3 p.m. Denver time, 9 a.m. Hawaii time. James had arranged for Kevin Aloha to connect Derek to an urgent business call in his office. Rob listened on speaker as Derek's voice came across the line, tense and suspicious. "This is Derek Thompson. Mr. Thompson, this is Agent Williams with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation." Rob had practiced the voice, official, stern, but not overly aggressive. "We need to speak with you regarding irregularities in several of your real estate transactions." There was a long pause. "I'm sorry, Agent Williams, but I'm on vacation. Perhaps you could contact my office." "Mr. Thompson, we've been investigating discrepancies in client escrow accounts at Premier Mountain Properties. We have evidence suggesting that significant sums have been diverted for personal use. I'm going to need you to return to Denver immediately to answer some questions." Derek's breathing became audible. What kind of evidence? Bank records, financial transfers, surveillance footage. Mr. Thompson, you have until Monday to present yourself at our Denver office voluntarily. If you fail to appear, we'll be issuing a warrant for your arrest and contacting Hawaiian authorities to detain you for extradition. This is some kind of mistake. I haven't done anything wrong. Rob's voice remained coldly professional. Monday morning, Mr. Thompson, 9 a.m. sharp. The address is 690 Kipling Street. Don't make us come looking for you. The line went dead, and Rob smiled for the first time since finding Linda's note. Think he'll bite? Frank asked. Oh, he'll bite. A man like Derek doesn't have the spine to face federal charges on a tropical island. He'll convince Linda they need to come home immediately, probably spin some story about a family emergency or business crisis. Rob's prediction proved accurate. Within 2 hours, James called back with an update from his friend at the resort. They're checking out tomorrow morning, James reported. Derek told the front desk there was a family emergency back home. Booked first-class tickets on the 2 p.m. flight to Denver. He looked pretty shaken up, according to Kevin. And Linda seemed confused and upset. Kevin said she was arguing with Derek in the lobby, something about not wanting to cut the trip short. But Derek was insistent, said they had to leave immediately. Rob felt a grim satisfaction. Linda had no idea that her tropical paradise was about to become a nightmare, and Derek was about to drag her into the fire with him. Friday afternoon found Rob at Denver International Airport, standing in the baggage claim area with Frank beside him. They weren't there to welcome Linda and Derek home. They were there to watch them walk into the carefully prepared trap. You sure about this timing? Frank asked. Miranda confirmed their flight landed 20 minutes ago. Derek will want to get Linda and the kids home as quickly as possible, then start making phone calls to try to figure out how much trouble he's in. And when he realizes there is no Agent Williams, by then it'll be too late. He'll be so panicked about the real investigation that he won't think clearly about the fake one. They didn't approach the family directly. Instead, Rob watched from behind a pillar as Linda emerged from the secure area, looking tan but tired, with Amy and Tyler trailing behind her. Derek appeared last, constantly checking his phone and scanning the crowd with nervous eyes. Tyler spotted Rob first. The 14-year-old froze, his face cycling through confusion, relief, and fear. He started toward his father, but Derek caught his arm and said something sharp. Tyler's expression crumpled, and Rob felt his anger crystallize into something harder and more dangerous. Amy noticed Tyler's reaction and followed his gaze, her eyes widening when she saw Rob. Unlike her brother, she moved closer to Derek, as if seeking protection. The gesture hit Rob like a physical blow, his own daughter, viewing him as a threat rather than safety. Linda finally noticed the family drama and turned to see what had captured their attention. When her eyes met Rob's across the baggage claim, her face went pale. She said something to Derek, who immediately began herding the children toward the exit. Rob didn't follow. He didn't need to. His real work would begin once they reached home and Derek started making phone calls. Hard to watch, Frank said quietly. Tyler knows something's wrong, Rob replied. Did you see his face? He wanted to come to me. And Amy. Rob's jaw tightened. Amy's made her choice, just like her mother. As the Mitchell family disappeared into the parking garage, Rob pulled out his phone and made a call. Miranda? They're home. Start phase 2. Copy that. The real investigation launches Monday morning. Derek Thompson has no idea what's about to hit him. And Linda, she's about to learn that actions have consequences. All those social media posts, all those public declarations about choosing happiness, they're about to become evidence in a very public divorce proceeding. Rob and Frank drove home in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The house still felt empty, but it no longer felt defeated. Instead, it felt like a fortress preparing for war. Sunday evening, Rob's phone rang. Linda's number appeared on the screen, and he let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello, Linda. Rob, we need to talk. Her voice was strained, artificial cheerfulness replaced by barely controlled panic. Do we? Derek's having some problems with work. There might be some kind of investigation. He says it's all a misunderstanding, but But you're starting to wonder what kind of man you've tied yourself to, Rob finished. Funny how quickly paradise can turn into hell. This isn't about Derek. This is about us, about our family. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we moved too fast. Rob looked at his father, who was listening to every word. Frank's expression was stone-cold disapproval. Linda, there's no us anymore. You made that choice when you spent my money on your boyfriend and humiliated our children in public. You made that choice when you decided that a cheating real estate agent was a better father figure than the man who spent 18 years providing for this family. Rob, please. I know you're angry, but I'm not angry, Linda. Angry would be an improvement. I'm disappointed. You see, I always thought you were better than this. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. What's that supposed to mean? Rob smiled, the same cold expression that had become his default over the past week. It means you should enjoy the next few days, Linda. They're going to be the last peaceful ones you have for a very long time. Chapter 5. The Reckoning. Monday morning arrived with the precision of a Swiss timepiece, just as Rob had planned. At exactly 9 a.m., Derek Thompson sat in his Audi outside the address Rob had given him, 690 Kipling Street, staring at a bustling shopping complex that definitely did not house the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Derek's hand shook as he called the number Agent Williams had provided, only to reach a generic voicemail service. He tried 3 more times before the reality hit him. He'd been played. But the relief that should have followed that realization never came. Because at 9:15 a.m., Derek's phone rang with a call from Premier Mountain Properties. Derek, where the hell are you? His manager, Bill Santos, sounded furious. The State Real Estate Commission is here with auditors, and they're asking very specific questions about client escrow accounts. They want to speak with you immediately. Derek's blood turned to ice. What kind of questions? The kind that involved police investigations and missing money. Derek, what have you done? As Derek sat in his car, watching his professional life collapse via phone call, Rob was 3 miles away in Miranda's office, watching the live stream of Premier Mountain Properties' lobby through security cameras that Miranda had accessed with minimal effort. He just pulled into the parking lot, Miranda reported. Looks like he's about to find out that fake investigations sometimes lead to real ones. You tipped off the state commission. Anonymous tip about suspicious financial activity. Included just enough real evidence to get them interested. Once they start digging, they'll find everything Derek's been hiding. Rob watched the monitor as Derek stumbled into his office building, his confident swagger replaced by the desperate gait of a man whose world was crumbling. How long before they arrest him? State investigations move slowly, but the FBI gets involved once it crosses certain thresholds. Derek's taken enough money to qualify for federal charges. I'd say he has maybe 48 hours before someone puts handcuffs on him. Phase 2 of Rob's plan was already in motion. While Derek dealt with his professional apocalypse, Linda was facing her own crisis at home. Rob had spent Sunday evening making his own series of phone calls. Linda's sister, her mother, her closest friends, everyone who'd seen the social media posts from Hawaii and congratulated her on finding happiness. Each conversation followed the same script. I wanted you to hear this from me before you see it on the news. Linda's boyfriend Derek is being investigated for embezzling money from his clients. Apparently, he's been funding their affair with stolen money for over a year. The Hawaii trip, the jewelry, all of it, stolen money. The responses were predictably dramatic. Linda's mother had immediately called Linda, demanding to know if she was involved in Derek's crimes. Her sister had been more direct. Are you insane? You left Rob for a criminal. By Monday afternoon, Linda's phone was ringing constantly. Friends, family members, even neighbors who'd heard rumors. The perfect life she'd showcased on social media was revealed as a fraud built on stolen money and lies. Linda's breaking point came when Amy's best friend's mother called to ask if it was true that Amy's new stepfather was going to prison. The conversation was brief and devastating. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm so sorry to bother you, but Chelsea is worried about Amy. She saw something on Facebook about Mr. Thompson being arrested and... Arrested? Linda's voice cracked. What are you talking about? Oh, I thought you knew. It's all over social media. Someone posted that he's being investigated for stealing money from his real estate clients. Chelsea's concerned because Amy was posting pictures of him teaching her to drive his car, and now people are saying the car was bought with stolen money. Linda hung up and immediately called Derek, but his phone went straight to voicemail. She tried his office and was told he was unavailable and under investigation. Finally, she drove to his condo, only to find FBI agents loading boxes of documents into unmarked vans. That evening, Linda called Rob again. "Rob, I need help." The artificial cheerfulness was gone, replaced by naked desperation. "Do you?" Derek's been arrested. The FBI took everything, his computers, his files, even his car. They're saying he stole money from his clients. How unfortunate for you. Rob, please. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was stealing money. I thought he was successful. I thought he could provide. You thought he could provide what I couldn't? Rob's voice was dangerously quiet. Financial security? A stable home? A good example for our children. I made a mistake. I see that now. But the kids and I, we need somewhere to stay. The FBI seized Derek's condo, and I can't afford a hotel, and... Linda, let me be very clear about something. You made your choice. You chose a criminal over your family. You chose to humiliate me publicly and poison my children against me. You chose to steal my money and spend it on a fantasy life with a man who was stealing from everyone around him. I didn't steal. You took out a loan in my name under false pretenses and spent it on your affair. That's theft, Linda. And conspiracy. Did you really think the FBI wouldn't be interested in where Derek got the money for your little vacation? The silence on the line stretched for nearly a minute. What are you saying? I'm saying that you're an accomplice to Derek's crimes whether you knew it or not. I'm saying that every dollar he spent on you was stolen from someone else. I'm saying that your decision to leave me for a criminal has made you a criminal. Rob, you can't be serious. I'm the mother of your children. You were the mother of my children. Now you're a woman who chose a thief over her family and has to live with the consequences. Where are we supposed to go? Rob looked around his empty house, thinking of all the family dinners Linda would never cook again, all the holidays she'd never organize, all the quiet moments of domestic peace she'd shattered with her betrayal. That's not my problem anymore, Linda. You made your choice. Live with it. He hung up and immediately blocked her number. Frank, who'd been listening from the kitchen, brought Rob a beer and sat down beside him. Think she'll try to come back here? She might, but I've already changed the locks and had the security system updated. Linda Mitchell no longer lives here. And the kids? Rob's expression hardened. Amy chose Derek over me in Hawaii. She made that choice publicly, in front of Tyler, reinforcing Linda's narrative that I was the problem. Tyler's different. He's confused and hurt, but he hasn't chosen sides. They're still your children, son. Tyler is my child. Amy is Linda's daughter. She's made that distinction clear. Frank studied his son's face, recognizing the same cold resolve he'd shown when cutting ties with dishonest business partners. No forgiveness? Dad, you taught me that trust is a privilege. Once someone shows you who they really are, you believe them. Linda showed me she's a woman who destroys families for personal pleasure. Amy showed me she's willing to abandon her father for a man who buys her attention with stolen money. I believe them both. That night, as Rob lay in bed in his empty house, he thought about the family photo on Linda's nightstand. A picture from last Christmas showing all four of them around the tree, smiling and seemingly happy. Tomorrow, he'd remove that photo and all the others like it. Robert Mitchell was done being a family man. From now on, he was something much more dangerous, a man with nothing left to lose and the resources to make his enemies pay for what they'd taken from him. Derek's arrest was just the beginning. Linda's social and financial ruin was the next phase. But the final act of Rob's revenge would be far more personal and far more permanent than either of them could imagine. Chapter 6, The Collapse. Tuesday morning brought Derek Thompson's Perp Walk, broadcast live on Denver's Morning News. Rob watched from his office as the man who destroyed his family was led from his condo in handcuffs, his expensive suit wrinkled and his confident smile replaced by the hollow stare of someone whose entire world had imploded overnight. Federal agents arrested local real estate agent Derek Thompson on charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement, the news anchor reported. Thompson is accused of stealing over $200,000 from client escrow accounts over a 2-year period. The FBI says the investigation is ongoing and additional charges may be filed. Rob turned off the television and called Miranda. Phase 3, she asked without preamble. Phase 3, Rob confirmed. Time to go after Linda directly. Linda's world was already crumbling. Derek's arrest had made the morning news, complete with footage of FBI agents searching his office and photos of the luxury items he'd purchased with stolen money. Linda recognized the jewelry Derek had given her, the restaurants where they'd had romantic dinners, even the car he'd been driving, all purchased with money stolen from his clients. But Rob wasn't content to let natural consequences run their course. He wanted Linda to understand that her betrayal would cost her everything she valued: her social standing, her financial security, and most importantly, her relationship with their children. The first blow came through Linda's employer. She worked part-time as an event coordinator for an upscale catering company that served Denver's social elite. The job was more about networking than necessity. Linda enjoyed the status and connections it provided. Monday afternoon, Linda's boss, Catherine Morrison, called her into the office. "Linda, I need to discuss your recent situation," Catherine said, her voice carefully neutral. "I don't know what you mean." "The news about Derek Thompson. The FBI investigation. Linda, several of our clients have expressed concern about having someone involved in a federal criminal case handling their events." Linda felt her stomach drop. "I'm not involved in Derek's business problems. I had no idea what he was doing." "Perhaps not, but perception matters in our industry. The Hendersons have already canceled their anniversary party after seeing you on the news walking out of Derek's condo during the FBI raid. I was just trying to get my things." "Linda, I'm sorry, but we have to let you go. Our reputation is everything, and right now, associating with you is a liability we can't afford." Linda left the catering company with a severance check for 2 weeks' pay and the crushing realization that her professional reputation was destroyed. In a city like Denver, where the social elite formed a tight-knit circle, word would spread quickly. No similar company would hire her. But Rob wasn't finished. The second blow came through Amy's high school. Amy had returned to classes Tuesday morning, trying to pretend that everything was normal. But teenagers were brutal, and social media was forever. Within hours, Amy's classmates had found Linda's Facebook posts from Hawaii, along with news coverage of Derek's arrest. "Amy's dating a criminal," one post read, accompanied by a screenshot of Amy laughing with Derek on the beach. "Guess we know where they got the money for that Hawaii trip," read another. By lunch, Amy was in the school counselor's office, crying and asking to go home. "The other kids are saying terrible things," Amy told the counselor. "They're saying Derek stole money and that my mom is a criminal too. They're saying my family is a bunch of thieves." The counselor, Mrs. Patricia Walsh, had dealt with teenage drama for 20 years, but this situation was particularly sensitive. The school had already received calls from parents concerned about Amy's home situation. "Where are you living now, Amy?" Mrs. Walsh asked gently. "With my mom at a hotel. We can't go back to Derek's place because the FBI took everything, and Dad won't talk to us. Have you tried calling your father?" Amy's face crumpled. "Mom says he's too angry to listen. She says he blames us for what happened, that he thinks we chose Derek over him." Mrs. Walsh made a note in Amy's file. "Would you like me to call your father? Sometimes adults need help communicating during difficult times." "You could try, but Mom says he's changed. She says he's become cold and mean, that he's trying to punish us for Derek's crimes." The call to Rob came that afternoon. Mrs. Walsh explained Amy's distress and asked if he would consider family counseling to help everyone process the situation. "Mrs. Walsh, I appreciate your concern, but Amy made her choice in Hawaii. She publicly embraced Derek as her father figure and rejected me. Now that Derek's in prison, she wants to come back? That's not how loyalty works. Mr. Mitchell, she's 16 years old. Teenagers make mistakes. Adults make mistakes, Mrs. Walsh. 16-year-olds make choices. Amy chose to humiliate me on social media by calling another man her real father. She chose to support her mother's affair publicly. Those choices have consequences. What about Tyler? He's been asking about you." Rob paused. Tyler was different. He'd been confused and manipulated, but he hadn't actively participated in Linda and Amy's campaign against him. Tyler's welcome to call me anytime, but only Tyler. The third blow came through Linda's family. Rob had been systematically contacting Linda's relatives, sharing the full story of her affair and Derek's crimes. Her mother, sister, and closest cousins had all been told about the stolen money, the public humiliation, and Linda's complete lack of remorse. Linda's sister Kelly called Wednesday evening. "Linda, I've been thinking about this situation, and I need to ask you something." "What now? Did you know Derek was stealing money?" "Kelly, I've told everyone. I had no idea about his business problems." "That's not what I asked. I asked if you knew he was stealing money. Because Mom and I have been talking, and we can't figure out how you didn't know. The man was unemployed half the time, but somehow he could afford five-star restaurants and luxury vacations." "You're not stupid, Linda. He told me he was successful. He told you what you wanted to hear because you wanted to believe it. Just like you wanted to believe that leaving Rob was some brave act of self-determination instead of what it really was, a selfish woman destroying her family for a fantasy." "Kelly, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You had a good man who worked his ass off to provide for you, and you threw him away for a criminal who bought your attention with stolen money. And now you want sympathy because your bad choices have consequences. I need help. The kids and I have nowhere to go, no money. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you burned your bridges. Linda, you made your bed. Now lie in it." The call ended with Linda staring at her phone in shock. Her own sister had cut her off. Thursday brought the final blow. Tyler called Rob from the hotel where he and Linda and Amy were staying. "Dad, it's Tyler." Rob's heart ached at the sound of his son's voice. "Tyler, how are you holding up?" "Dad, I'm scared. Mom cries all the time, and Amy won't talk to anyone. We're living in a hotel room, and Mom says we might have to move to a shelter. She says Derek's in jail, and he can't help us anymore. I'm sorry you're going through this, son." "Dad, why won't you let us come home? I know Mom made mistakes, but we're still family, right?" Rob closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. "Tyler, do you remember what Derek told you in Hawaii? About being your real father figure?" "That was Derek talking, not me. I never wanted another dad. I just wanted you to be around more." "And what about Amy? What did she say about Derek?" Tyler was quiet for a long moment. "She said Derek was nicer than you. She said he paid attention to her and made her feel special. She said maybe it would be better if Derek adopted us so we could have a real family." "Did she post it on social media?" "Yeah. She made posts about how Derek was the dad she always wanted, how he showed her what love really looked like." "Dad, I told her it was wrong, but she wouldn't listen." Rob felt a cold satisfaction. Even Tyler understood the difference between loyalty and betrayal. "Tyler, you can come home anytime you want, but only you. Amy made her choice, and I'm not interested in rewarding disloyalty." "What about Mom?" "Your mother chose Derek over her family. She chose to steal my money and humiliate me publicly. She's not welcome in my house ever again." "But Dad, where will they go?" Rob looked around his empty house, thinking of all the ways Linda had destroyed their family. "That's not my problem anymore, son. But you are. If you want to come home, I'll pick you up right now." Tyler was quiet for nearly a minute. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But Tyler, think carefully about who's been loyal to you and who's been using you. Think about who's always been there and who only wants you around when it's convenient." After the call ended, Rob sat in his kitchen and opened a beer. Phase 3 was complete. Linda was professionally ruined, socially ostracized, and financially desperate. Derek was in federal prison, facing decades behind bars. Amy had learned that actions have consequences, even for 16-year-olds who think they can destroy their families without repercussions. All that remained was Tyler's choice. Would he stay loyal to the women who'd betrayed his father, or would he come home to the man who'd never stopped fighting for him? Rob would know soon enough, and then, finally, his revenge would be complete. Chapter 7. The Choice. Friday afternoon found Rob at his office at the main auto shop, trying to lose himself in the familiar rhythms of work. He'd spent the morning reviewing quarterly reports and approving purchase orders, attempting to rebuild the normal routines that Linda's betrayal had shattered. But concentration was difficult when his phone buzzed every few minutes with updates on his destroyed family. Miranda called just after lunch with news about Derek's legal situation. Federal prosecutors are moving fast, she reported. Derek's looking at 25 years minimum if convicted on all charges. His public defender is already talking about a plea deal. What kind of deal? Full restitution to his victims, cooperation with ongoing investigations, probably 15 years in federal prison. Derek's scared, Rob. He's giving up everyone he's ever worked with who bent the rules. Rob felt a grim satisfaction. Derek Thompson would spend the next decade and a half in a federal penitentiary, surrounded by men who had no tolerance for white-collar criminals who stole from families. It was a fate worse than anything Rob could have arranged personally. What about Linda? She's been questioned twice by FBI agents investigating Derek's financial network. They want to know about the Hawaii trip, the jewelry, any cash Derek might have given her. So far, she's not being charged with anything, but they're watching her closely. She's broke? Completely. The hotel bill is running up against her credit card limit, and she's got maybe $300 in checking. No job, no prospects, and no family willing to help. She's desperate, Rob. The second call came an hour later from Tyler's school. His son had been in a fight with another student over comments about his family situation. The other boy had called Linda a criminal's whore, and Tyler had responded with his fists. Tyler's not in serious trouble, the vice principal assured Rob. Given the circumstances, we understand why he reacted defensively. But we thought you should know he's struggling with the situation at home. Is he hurt? Just bruised knuckles. The other boy has a black eye. Mr. Mitchell, Tyler asked if he could call you from our office. He seems conflicted about something. Rob drove to the school immediately. He found Tyler sitting in the main office, his right hand wrapped in an ice pack, staring out the window with an expression that was far too mature for a 14-year-old. Tyler. His son looked up, and Rob saw exhaustion in eyes that should have been bright with teenage energy. Dad, thanks for coming. They drove to a nearby diner without speaking, both lost in their own thoughts. Rob ordered coffee while Tyler picked at a burger he claimed to want. You want to tell me what happened today? Tyler shrugged. Brandon Peterson said some things about Mom and Amy. I told him to shut up. He didn't. What kind of things? That Mom was a gold digger who left you for a criminal. That Amy was a spoiled brat who got everything she wanted with stolen money. That our whole family was a joke. Rob studied his son's face. What do you think about that? I think. Tyler paused, choosing his words carefully. I think Brandon wasn't completely wrong. I think Mom did leave you for someone who seemed successful, and when that turned out to be fake, she expected you to just take her back. I think Amy did get caught up in Derek's money and attention, and now she's embarrassed that everyone knows the truth. And what about you? Tyler met his father's eyes directly. I think I want to come home, but I'm scared about leaving Mom and Amy alone. Rob felt his heart clench. Tyler was carrying a burden no 14-year-old should bear, feeling responsible for the adults who should have been protecting him. Tyler, let me ask you something. When you were in Hawaii, did you want to be there? At first, yeah. It seemed like an adventure. But Derek kept trying to act like my dad, giving me advice about girls and school and stuff. And Mom kept saying how much better everything was without you around. It made me uncomfortable. Why? Because it wasn't true. You've been to every baseball game I've ever played. You helped me with my science projects. You taught me to drive. Derek bought me some surfing lessons and thought that made him my father. Rob nodded. What about Amy? Tyler's expression darkened. Amy loved it. She kept posting pictures of Derek teaching her to drive his car, taking her shopping, buying her expensive clothes. She told me Derek was the kind of father she'd always wanted. Someone who made her feel special instead of just providing for her. Did that hurt you? It hurt that she said it in front of Derek, like she was trying to make sure he knew she picked him over you. It hurt that she didn't seem to care that it was wrong. Rob reached across the table and squeezed Tyler's shoulder. Son, loyalty isn't just about choosing sides. It's about standing by people who've earned your trust, even when it's difficult. Your mother and sister made their choices based on what felt good in the moment. You're trying to make yours based on what's right. But if I come home, Mom and Amy will be alone in that hotel room. Mom cries all the time now, and Amy barely speaks to anyone. What if something happens to them? Rob pulled out his phone and showed Tyler a text message he'd received that morning. Your mother sent me this an hour ago. The message read, Rob, I'll do anything if you'll just let us come home. I'll sign whatever papers you want, give you full custody, disappear from their lives completely. Please don't punish the children for my mistakes. Tyler read the message twice. Are you going to let them come back? No. Why not? Rob chose his words carefully. Tyler, imagine you had a best friend who borrowed money from you, then spent it on expensive gifts for someone else. Then imagine that friend posted pictures online of how much better their new friend was than you, and how happy they were to finally be with someone who understood them. If that friend came back when their new friend got arrested for stealing, would you trust them again? Tyler considered this. No, I figured they were only coming back because they needed something, not because they actually cared about me. That's exactly right. Your mother doesn't want to come home because she realizes she was wrong about Derek. She wants to come home because Derek can't provide for her anymore and she needs someone to take care of her. What about Amy? Rob's expression hardened. Amy made her choice very publicly. She told the world that Derek was a better father than me, that she was happier with him than she'd ever been with our family. She meant every word when she said it, Tyler. The only reason she'd want to come back now is because her new father figure is in prison. Tyler was quiet for several minutes, processing everything his father had said. Dad, if I come home, will you try to help Mom and Amy? I'll make sure they're not homeless or starving. But Tyler, I will never trust either of them again, and I will never allow them back into my life. They made their choice. Now, they have to live with it. Tyler nodded slowly. Can I ask you one more thing? Anything. If I had chosen Derek over you in Hawaii, would you forgive me? Rob looked at his son, really looked at him. Tyler had his mother's eyes, but his father's stubborn chin. He was trying to be loyal to everyone and ending up loyal to no one, except possibly himself. Honestly, I don't know, but you didn't choose Derek. You chose to stay confused and conflicted instead of taking the easy path. That tells me you have integrity, even when it's painful. I want to come home, Dad, but I want to tell Mom and Amy myself face to face. Rob paid the check, and they drove to the hotel where Linda and Amy were staying. The Econo Lodge was a far cry from the Maui Grand Resort where this had all started, but it was what Linda could afford now that Derek's stolen money had dried up. They found Linda and Amy in room 237, sitting on opposite beds and staring at muted television. Both looked up when Tyler knocked, their faces showing a mixture of hope and fear when they saw Rob behind him. Tyler. Linda stood up, smoothing down her unwashed hair. What are you doing here? I came to talk to you and Amy. Amy remained on her bed, studying her phone screen. If Dad's here to gloat, I'm not interested. Tyler looked at his sister with an expression Rob had never seen before, disappointment mixed with pity. Amy, I'm going home with Dad. Both Linda and Amy turned to stare at him. Tyler, you can't, Linda said quickly. We're a family. We need to stick together. Are we a family, Mom? Because in Hawaii, you kept telling me how much better our lives were without Dad. You kept saying Derek was the father we deserved. That didn't sound like you thought Dad was part of our family. Linda's face crumpled. I was confused. I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving you and Amy. Tyler looked at Amy, who was still focused on her phone. Amy, do you want to come home with me and Dad? Amy finally looked up, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. Home to what? Dad hates us now. You heard what people at school are saying. Everyone knows we chose Derek over Dad, and now Derek's in prison. We're a joke. So you'd rather stay here feeling sorry for yourself than admit you made a mistake? I didn't make a mistake. Amy snapped. Derek was good to me. He paid attention to me. He made me feel special. With stolen money, Amy. Everything Derek gave you, everything he bought, every trip he took you on, it was all stolen from other families. Amy's voice rose. I didn't know that. Did you care where the money came from? Did you ever ask why Derek could afford to spend thousands of dollars on us, while Dad had to work 60 hours a week just to pay the bills? Amy fell silent, and Tyler turned back to Linda. Mom, I love you, but I can't trust you anymore. You lied to me about Derek, you lied to me about Dad, and you lied to me about what we were doing in Hawaii. You used me to hurt Dad, and I won't let you do that anymore. Linda began crying again. Tyler, please. I need you. I can't do this alone. Tyler walked over and hugged his mother, but Rob could see the reluctance in his son's movements. You're not alone, Mom. You have Amy, and Amy has you. Maybe you can figure out how to be a family together. Tyler stepped back and walked toward the door where Rob was waiting. Tyler, Amy called out. If you leave with him, don't expect me to forgive you. Tyler paused at the door and looked back at his sister. Amy, I don't need your forgiveness. I need my self-respect. And I can't have that if I stay here and pretend that what happened in Hawaii was okay. As they walked to Rob's truck, Tyler was quiet until they reached the parking lot. Dad, yeah. I'm sorry it took me this long to choose. Rob put his arm around his son's shoulders. Tyler, the fact that it was a hard choice shows you have a good heart. But you made the right choice in the end. As they drove away from the hotel, Rob felt something he hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. Tyler was coming home. Not because he had nowhere else to go, but because he'd chosen loyalty over convenience, integrity over comfort. Linda and Amy would have to find their own way forward. Rob had given them every opportunity to make things right, and they'd chosen to double down on their mistakes instead. Now, they could live with the consequences while Rob and Tyler rebuilt what was left of their family. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. 6 months later, Rob stood in his kitchen on a Saturday morning, watching Tyler flip pancakes with the concentrated focus of someone who'd finally found his footing. The house felt different now, not empty, but purposefully quiet. Father and son had developed their own rhythms, their own traditions, their own way of being a family. Tyler had thrived since coming home. His grades had improved. He made the varsity baseball team as a freshman, and most importantly, he'd stopped carrying the weight of adult problems on his teenage shoulders. He'd learned to be a kid again, secure in the knowledge that his father would handle the complicated parts of life. The divorce had been finalized 3 months earlier. Linda had signed whatever papers Rob's lawyer put in front of her, desperate to avoid any criminal charges related to Derek's embezzlement scheme. She'd received no alimony, no share of Rob's business assets, and no custody rights. The prenuptial agreement she dismissed as unromantic 18 years earlier had proven to be prophetic. Derek was serving 15 years in federal prison after accepting a plea deal. The FBI had recovered less than 30% of the stolen money, meaning his victims would never be fully compensated for their losses. Rob felt no sympathy for Derek's situation. Federal prison was exactly where men like him belonged. Amy had made her choice to stay with Linda, and Rob had respected that decision by having no contact with his eldest daughter. She was living with Linda in a small apartment across town, working part-time at a grocery store to help pay rent while finishing her senior year of high school. According to Tyler, who occasionally saw her at school, Amy was bitter and angry, blaming Rob for destroying the family rather than accepting responsibility for her own choices. Linda had found work as a receptionist at a medical office, making barely enough to cover basic expenses. Her social circle had evaporated completely. The upscale friends who'd once envied her lifestyle now crossed the street to avoid being associated with the woman who'd left her husband for a convicted felon. But Rob's revenge wasn't complete. There was still one final act to play out, and it began with a phone call on that peaceful Saturday morning. Rob? It's Amy. Tyler looked up from his pancakes, recognizing his sister's voice even through the phone speaker. Amy, this is unexpected. I need to ask you something. Her voice was strained, desperate. Tyler said you're planning to sell the house and move somewhere smaller. Tyler said correctly. This house is too big for 2 people, and I'm thinking about relocating the business to Colorado Springs. Better opportunities there. What about my room? What about all my things? Rob looked around the kitchen, noting the absence of any trace of Amy's existence. He'd already donated her belongings to charity 6 months earlier. Amy, you don't live here anymore. You made that choice when you decided to stay with your mother. But it's still my home. It's still my family. No, Amy. Tyler and I are your family. Your mother and Derek were your chosen family. Remember? You made that very clear on social media. There was a long pause. Derek's in prison, Dad. He's gone. Yes, he is. How's that working out for you? Amy's voice cracked. It's terrible. We live in a tiny apartment. Mom cries all the time. I have to work after school just to help pay for groceries. Nobody at school talks to me anymore. My friends all think I'm a joke. That sounds like a difficult situation. Dad, please. I know I made mistakes, but I was 16. I was confused. Can't you forgive me? Rob exchanged glances with Tyler, who was listening to every word. Amy, forgiveness and trust are different things. I can forgive a 16-year-old for making poor choices, but I can't trust someone who publicly humiliated their family for personal gain. It wasn't for personal gain. You posted dozens of photos of Derek buying you expensive clothes, teaching you to drive his luxury car, taking you to exclusive restaurants. You wrote captions about how he was the father you'd always wanted, how he showed you what real love looked like. You used my pain to elevate yourself on social media. Amy began crying. I was stupid. I was caught up in the attention and the nice things. But I never stopped loving you. Did you love me when you told your friends that Derek was a better father than me? Did you love me when you posted that video of Derek teaching you to surf with the caption, "Finally have a dad who makes time for what matters"? The crying intensified. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just want to come home. Amy, you are home. You're with the people you chose when it mattered. Your mother needed you to validate her decision to leave me, and you provided that validation enthusiastically. Now you're both living with the consequences of those choices. But I learned my lesson. I know Derek was wrong. I know Mom was wrong. I'll never make those mistakes again. Rob's voice remained steady, emotionless. Amy, you didn't learn that Derek and your mother were wrong because you suddenly developed moral clarity. You learned it because Derek got arrested and you realized that all the expensive gifts and exotic vacations were purchased with stolen money. You're not sorry for betraying me. You're sorry that your betrayal didn't work out better for you. Tyler set down his spatula and looked directly at his father. Rob could see understanding in his son's eyes. Tyler knew this conversation was necessary, even if it was painful to witness. Dad, what if I promise to make it up to you? What if I publicly apologize, tell everyone I was wrong? Amy, do you remember what you said to Tyler when he decided to come home with me? Amy's voice trailed off. You told him not to expect your forgiveness if he chose me over you and your mother. You made it clear that loyalty was a one-way street. Everyone should be loyal to you, but you owed loyalty to no one. I was angry. I was hurt. You were honest. For the first time in months, you were completely honest about who you are and what you believe. I appreciate that honesty, Amy. It helped me understand exactly where I stand with you. The silence stretched for nearly a minute before Amy spoke again. So that's it? You're just going to cut me out of your life forever? Amy, I didn't cut you out. You left. You chose Derek over me, luxury over loyalty, immediate gratification over family. You celebrated those choices publicly and encouraged others to see me as the problem. Now you want to come back because your choices didn't work out the way you planned. Tyler got to come home. Tyler never chose Derek over me. Tyler never posted on social media about how much better his life was without me. Tyler never told his friends that Derek was the father he'd always wanted. Tyler stayed loyal even when it was difficult and inconvenient. Amy's voice turned angry. So you're punishing me for being honest about my feelings? Rob smiled, recognizing Linda's manipulative tactics in his daughter's words. No, Amy, I'm respecting your choices. You were honest about your feelings. You felt that Derek was a better father than me, that your life was better without me in it, that I was holding your family back from happiness. I'm simply agreeing with your assessment and giving you the Derek-free, Rob-free life you said you wanted. But I was wrong, were you? Or are you just disappointed that Derek turned out to be a criminal? If Derek had been legitimately wealthy, if he'd never been arrested, would you be calling me today? Amy couldn't answer that question, and her silence was answer enough. Amy, I hope you and your mother find happiness together. I hope you both learn from this experience and make better choices in the future. But you won't be making those choices as part of my family. Dad, please. Rob hung up and immediately blocked Amy's number. Tyler served the pancakes without speaking, processing what he'd just witnessed. Finally, he looked up at his father. Was that hard for you? Yes and no. It was hard because I remember the little girl who used to sit on my lap and asked me to read her stories. But it was easy because that little girl grew up to be someone who could betray her family for a shopping spree. Do you think she'll ever understand why you won't take her back? Rob considered the question carefully. I think Amy will spend years telling herself that I'm cruel and unforgiving. I think she'll convince herself that she was just a confused teenager who made innocent mistakes. I think she'll rewrite history until she's the victim and I'm the villain. But deep down, she'll always know the truth. She'll know that she had a choice between loyalty and luxury, and she chose luxury. She'll know that she had a chance to support her family during a crisis, and instead she made the crisis worse. That knowledge will follow her for the rest of her life. Tyler nodded slowly. I'm glad I chose to come home. So am I, son. So am I. That afternoon, Rob called his real estate agent and put the house on the market. Tyler would finish his freshman year at his current school. Then they'd move to Colorado Springs for a fresh start. They'd find a smaller house, establish new routines, and build the life that Linda and Amy had rejected. As Rob stood in his backyard, looking at the swing set he'd built for Amy and Tyler when they were small, he felt a profound sense of closure. Linda was working at a medical office, struggling to pay rent. Amy was bagging groceries and blaming everyone but herself for her situation. Derek was in federal prison, where he belonged. Meanwhile, Rob and Tyler were planning a future together. Baseball games and college visits, camping trips and business discussions, all the father-son experiences that Linda had dismissed as insufficient. Rob had learned a valuable lesson from Linda's betrayal. Loyalty was indeed a privilege, and those who proved themselves disloyal deserved neither forgiveness nor second chances. He'd applied that lesson thoroughly, and the results spoke for themselves. The Mitchell family was finally at peace, even if it was a much smaller family than it had once been. Chapter 9. New Beginnings. 2 years after the Thanksgiving that changed everything, Rob stood on the deck of his new house in Colorado Springs, watching Tyler practice pitching in their backyard. At 16, Tyler had grown 3 inches and filled out considerably, his throwing arm strong enough to earn interest from college scouts. More importantly, he'd grown into the kind of young man Rob was proud to call his son, responsible, loyal, and uncompromising in his integrity. The relocation had been exactly what they both needed. Rob's auto repair business had expanded to include 2 locations in Colorado Springs, serving both civilian customers and military personnel from nearby Fort Carson. Tyler had made the varsity baseball team as a sophomore and was already being recruited by Division I schools. Their new life was intentionally simple. Rob worked reasonable hours, attended every one of Tyler's games, and spent weekends hiking the nearby mountains or working on projects around their modest but comfortable house. They'd found peace in the absence of drama, contentment in the knowledge that they could trust each other completely. The call came on a Thursday evening in March. Tyler answered the phone while Rob was grilling dinner on their back deck. "Dad, it's for you." Says her name is Kelly. Rob recognized the name immediately, Linda's sister. He hadn't spoken to Kelly since the divorce proceedings, but he'd heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd maintained her position that Linda had destroyed her own life through selfishness and poor judgment. "Rob, I'm sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know. Linda's in the hospital." Rob felt no emotional response to this news, neither satisfaction nor concern, just a mild curiosity about why Kelly thought he needed to know. "What happened?" "Car accident. She's going to be okay, but she's pretty banged up. Broken ribs, concussion, her legs in a cast. She'll be in the hospital for at least a week." "I'm sorry to hear that. Is there something specific you need from me?" Kelly was quiet for a moment. "Rob, she's asking for you. She says she needs to talk to you, that there are things she has to say before it's too late." "Kelly, Linda has had 2 years to reach out if she wanted to talk. She chose not to. I don't see why a car accident changes that." "She's scared, Rob. She's been struggling since the divorce, barely making ends meet. Amy graduated high school, but couldn't afford college, so she's still working retail and living at home. They're both miserable, and I think Linda finally realizes what she threw away." Rob looked through the kitchen window at Tyler, who was doing homework at the dining room table. His son was focused and content, secure in a life built on honesty and mutual respect. "Kelly, I hope Linda recovers fully from her injuries, but her struggles aren't my responsibility anymore. She made her choices, and I've made mine." Rob, I know she hurt you terribly, but she's still the mother of your children. She's the mother of Amy, who chose to stay with her. Tyler lives with me now, and he's thriving. Linda doesn't get to claim credit for that. What about forgiveness? What about giving people second chances? Rob smiled, a cold expression that Kelly couldn't see but would have recognized if she'd known him better. Kelly, let me tell you about second chances. Linda had 18 years of marriage to choose her family over her fantasies. She had dozens of opportunities to work on our relationship instead of seeking attention from other men. She had multiple chances to come clean about her affair before I discovered it. She had the opportunity to end things gracefully instead of stealing my money and humiliating me publicly. She made mistakes. She made choices. And when those choices led to consequences she didn't like, she expected me to rescue her from them. That's not how life works. Kelly sighed. She says she loves you. She says she always loved you. I'm sure she believes that. Linda has always been good at rewriting history to make herself the victim of circumstances beyond her control. But actions reveal truth better than words ever can. Will you at least think about visiting her? Rob looked at Tyler again, remembering the confused and hurt boy who'd come home from Hawaii 2 years earlier, and comparing him to the confident young man he'd become. No, Kelly, I won't. Linda chose her path when she decided that a criminal with nice cars was a better partner than the man who'd spent 18 years building a life with her. She can walk that path alone. After hanging up, Rob joined Tyler at the dining room table. Everything okay, Dad? Linda was in a car accident. She'll recover, but she's asking to see me. Tyler looked up from his calculus homework. Are you going to visit her? No. Good. Tyler's response was immediate and certain. She had 2 years to apologize if she really meant it. She only wants to see you now because she's scared and wants someone to take care of her. Rob studied his son's face, recognizing the same clear-eyed assessment of character that had driven Tyler's decision to come home 2 years earlier. You don't think people can change? Tyler considered the question seriously. I think people can change their circumstances or their behavior when they have to. But I don't think they change who they are at their core. Mom is someone who uses people when she needs them and discards them when she doesn't. Amy is someone who chooses whatever seems easiest or most beneficial at the moment. Neither of them has given me any reason to think they're different now. That's a pretty harsh assessment. Is it wrong? Rob considered his son's words. Linda had indeed spent 2 years making no effort to contact either of them, despite knowing where they lived and how to reach them. Amy had made no attempt to repair her relationship with Tyler or acknowledge her role in the family's destruction. They both simply expected time to heal wounds they'd never bothered to clean or bandage. No, Tyler, it's not wrong. Then why would we invite people back into our lives who've proven they can't be trusted? Rob felt a surge of pride in his son's wisdom. Tyler had learned the lesson that Rob himself had taken too long to internalize. That loyalty and trust were earned through consistent actions, not granted automatically based on blood relations or shared history. 3 days later, Kelly called again. Rob, Linda's being discharged tomorrow. She's having trouble walking, and she can't drive with her leg in a cast. Amy's working double shifts to cover the medical bills, and they're behind on rent. I know you don't want to help Linda, but could you at least send some money for Tyler's sake? Tyler lives with me, Kelly. He doesn't need anything, but there's still his family. No, Rob interrupted. I'm his family. Linda and Amy are people he used to live with who chose not to be part of his life anymore. Rob, you can't be this cold forever. Kelly, I'm not cold. I'm practical. Linda has had every opportunity to make things right with Tyler and me. Instead, she spent 2 years wallowing in self-pity and expecting us to feel sorry for her. Her medical bills aren't my responsibility, her rent isn't my concern, and her inability to support herself isn't my problem. What if Tyler wants to help them? Rob looked at Tyler, who was listening to the conversation while pretending to read. Tyler's welcome to make his own choices about his relationship with Linda and Amy, but he won't be doing it with my money or my blessing. Tyler shook his head firmly, making his position clear. I think Tyler's already made his choice, Kelly. After the call ended, Tyler set down his book and looked at his father. Dad, do you ever regret cutting them off so completely? Rob considered the question honestly. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that Linda and Amy chose to value things over relationships. I regret that our family couldn't survive their selfishness. But I don't regret protecting myself and you from people who've proven they can't be trusted. Do you think we're better off without them? Rob looked around their peaceful home, thinking about the quiet dinners without arguments, the weekends without drama, the consistent happiness they'd built together. Tyler, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Linda showed me she's someone who destroys families for personal gratification. Amy showed me she's someone who'll betray the people who love her for temporary advantages. I believe them both. And us. We're exactly where we belong, son. Building something better with people who deserve our loyalty. That evening, as Rob and Tyler worked together in their garage, restoring a classic Mustang they'd bought as a project, Rob reflected on the strange mathematics of loss and gain. He'd lost a wife and daughter, but he'd gained something more valuable: certainty about who could be trusted and who couldn't. Linda and Amy would continue struggling with the consequences of their choices, probably for years to come. They'd continue expecting rescue from the very people they'd betrayed, never quite understanding why that rescue never came. Meanwhile, Rob and Tyler had built something solid and lasting. A relationship based on mutual respect, shared values, and absolute loyalty. It was a smaller family than Rob had once imagined, but it was also a stronger one. As Tyler handed him a wrench, smiling with the easy contentment of someone who knew he was valued and trusted, Rob felt the final piece of his revenge click into place. The best revenge wasn't punishment. It was success. It was building something better with people who deserved it while leaving the betrayers to face the natural consequences of their choices. Linda had chosen Derek over family, and now she was alone. Amy had chosen luxury over loyalty, and now she was working retail to pay for her mother's medical bills. Derek was serving his 15th year in federal prison. And Rob and Tyler were exactly where they belonged, together, at peace, and absolutely certain that they'd made the right choices when it mattered most. Justice, Rob had learned, wasn't always swift, but was always thorough. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.